Even with America's military protection umbrella, Japanese post-war success certainly impressed us all. But it's no longer the choice. Japan's defenses are put under pressure due to North Korea's nuclear ambitions and China's increasingly aggressive activities with more than 3,000 active aircraft. So, the time has come for them to finally show off the country's full military potential by presenting the world's best sixth-generation fighter, destined to outperform the US F-35 and keep China's Air Force at bay. When we talk about technology, research, and development, Japan is for sure the first thing that comes to mind. So their world-leading composite material and radar technologies doesn't really come as a surprise nowadays. The country was the first to deploy a fighter with an AESA radar, and the first to deploy an air-to-air missile guided by said technology. Something the US and Russia both still struggle to achieve. Recently, Japan unveiled a flight prototype for their new sixth-generation fighter listed as both F-X and, sometimes, F-3. Everything we know about the new aircraft capabilities is thanks to the Defense Minister Taro Kono, who emphasized that their goals are for the aircraft to be stealthy, network-centric, and able to carry more missiles than the F-35. The F-X is planned to be a generation ahead of the F-35 and a solid rival for Chinese and Russian stealth fighters. Even though the core design including airframe and engine has already been finished, we will have to wait until 2024 to see the prototype and 4 more years after that to see its first flight. Following the tests, the F-X will start serial production in 2031 and transfer 90 advanced stealth fighters to the Japanese Air Force in mid-2030s, just in time before the F-2 jet is due to be phased out. Regarding the costs, this fighter won't come cheap, as the cost per plane could easily exceed the 20 billion yen mark, that translates to $179 million each. Meanwhile, the overall F-X program is expected to cost another $45 billion. Furthermore, Japan signed a contract with Lockheed Martin valued at around $23 billion for the purchase of around 200 F-35. For us, it remains uncertain if Japan's defense sector will be able to juggle with 2 costly procurements simultaneously. This procedure raises a few key questions like, why does Japan need an expensive F-X fighter fleet and 2 additional squadrons of imported F-35? And what characteristics put this model above any other as the best sixth-generation fighter? Let's start with that one first. As we know, Japan has already worked under license domestically on a number of some of the best American fighters such as the F-4E Phantom, the F-15 Eagle, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, and heavily modified models such as the Mitsubishi F-2 and the F-35A Lightning II. All these aircraft are still in service at the country's Air Force, and all of them, except for the F-35, had major modifications that clearly distinguish them from the original American design. Despite their formidable technology advantages, this new sixth-generation fighter comes as Japan's first indigenous production for an air-to-air combat jet since WW2. After decades searching for a high-end air-to-air combat sixth-gen fighter, Japan finally found a way to exceed America's F-35, China's J-20, and Russia's Su-27 fighters. Japan's initial plan was to buy the American F-22 Raptor for such a role, but an export ban followed by its production termination ultimately dashed its hopes for a meaningful upgrade early on. After missing this chance, Japan began to develop an indigenous fifth-generation plane with several notable differences compared to the US F-22 fighter. Including challenging engine XF-91 and 3D vector thrusting resembling more of Russia's Su-57, Japan's project seemed to be on track until, in 2016, the X-2, Shinshin, prototype from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries carried out their maiden flight. Since then, all news and information about the program stopped. Some say that Shinshin X-2 could be related to the F-X program, but the latter is a completely new fighter jet concept of the next generation. What makes twin-engine F-X pop off is its technological supremacy. This includes remote drone control capabilities, a VR-style helmet-mounted display and a radar that also works as a microwave weapon to fry enemy missiles. The engine will be designed to exchange sensor data with Japanese and US forces and have enough weight capacity for at least 6 internal weapons, including air-to-ground and anti-ship missiles. Though, air-to-air combat will be its main mission, the F-X design concept is known to feature electrically actuated control surfaces, a fiber optic flight control system or fly-by-line and serpentine air intakes to reduced radar cross-section and heat signature. Japan's idea is to make the F-X as stealthier as possible. So, electromagnetic wave absorbers, metamaterial application and the usage of ionized gas or plasma stealth to reduce radar cross-section will be just a few of the extra measures taken when approaching this design. To make the F-X lighter, the Army will opt for heat shields and integrated bonded structure made of composite materials. This way, the aircraft will be able to fly out to substantial ranges and allow flexible basing from central Japanese islands. By using a shared basic design called the Combat Support Unmanned Aircraft, each F-X jet will be able to control up to 3 loyal wingman-style drones that can be outfitted either as sensor platforms or as missile pack mules. The drones could both improve the F-X's offensive capabilities while greatly reducing the manned jet's exposure to enemy attacks at the same time. However, Japan is not working alone in this domestic stealth fighter program. Tokyo confirmed that manufacturers Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman will be its primary international partners. In Japan's words, these two U.S. companies were selected for their vast experience developing fifth-generation fighters such as the F-22 and the F-35 that tilted the balance in their favor compared to the other two candidates' base systems and Boeing. Lockheed participation will involve consultation about the radar-absorbent materials developed by them, and other techniques used by the firm to reduce the F-22 and F-35 radar cross-sections. Northrop Grumman will particularly help regarding sensor and networked warfare technologies that were already widely used in their Super Hornet jet's E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, and the F-35's distributed aperture system multi-sensor. Now, Mitsubishi Electric will work specifically on mission systems and electronic warfare capabilities, focusing in particular on self-defense jamming. Japan did their own research on integrated fire control, a technology that allows high-speed data link for fighters that will grant Japanese, and possibly the US fighters, to pull together their sensors and missile targeting capabilities, significantly enhancing the accuracy of beyond visual range missiles. Finally, IHI Corporation has been testing the jet's XF-91 low-bypass turbofan engine since 2018. Since then, they incorporated exotic materials to reduce size and increase heat tolerance up to 1,800 degrees Celsius. The XF-91 produces up to 12 US tons of thrust or up to 16.5 tons with afterburners, slightly less than the F-119 engines on an F-22 Raptor. However, the XF-91 stand out for being slimmer and generating 180 kilowatts of energy each, cumulatively outperforming any US fighter. Not to mention the tests on thrust vectoring nozzles that Japan did for the XF-91, which could allow extremely tight maneuvers. This thrust vectoring engine feature proven to be extremely effective in former models such as the US F-22, the Russian Su-30 and Su-35, and China's J-10 and J-20 fighters. Toshiba and the Fujitsu Group will take the lead regarding electronics by developing and manufacturing the F-X's gallium nitride ASIA radar that will also work as a microwave weapon against incoming missiles. To achieve this, the radar will be supplemented by an infrared sensor and an electronic support measure sensor or ESM. Subaru will be in charge of developing the F-X's landing systems. Though better known as an automobile manufacturer, Subaru's aerospace division has been and still is building wings and landing gear components for the Boeing 777 airliner. So, thanks to the people working behind it, we can assume that the Japanese F-X will definitely be one of the most powerful sixth-generation fighters jets for sure. But what's interesting is that, even while building their new fighter, Japan is also investing over $23 billion for 2 squadrons of F-35B and F-35A's stealth jump jets from Lockheed Martin. That, combined with the also billionaire investment that the F-X program represent, Japan government will be facing insanely big expenses. But we might have a reasonable explanation for this. To start with, Japan has lots of outlying bases on islands that would be widely exposed if China decides to attack them. In this respect, the F-35Bs not only will fly from the Japanese Navy's new light aircraft carriers but they'll also use this island's airstrips as a landing point to extend Japan's air power across the East China Sea all the way to the edge of Taiwan's airspace. The F-35B's single engine features a novel propulsion system that combines a swiveling engine nozzle with a downward blasting lift fan. Together, this gear allows the 18 tons fighter to take off after a short takeoff run of 500 feet or fewer. And this is also the main reason of why so many countries operating small aircraft and lacking catapults are acquiring this model for shipboard use. But the same short takeoff capability is also helpful on land. In theory, an F-35B could be able to operate from short runways on far-flung islands. The F-35Bs are planned to fly from the two Japan Maritime Self-Defense Forces 814-foot-long light carriers Izumo and Kaga while, when not at sea, the jump jets could use the small airstrips of the Okinawa and Sakishima island groups to disperse across them. However though, the F-35 is a complex and high-maintenance machine that will require for the island airfields to be packed with substantial manpower with support equipment ready to take care of them. Therefore, the new fighter jet is expected to also handle such defense missions as well. And that's all the time we have for today's video. We hope you liked it, and please, if you learned something new, give this video a thumbs up. And make sure you subscribe, so you don't miss any new upcoming video from Military in Touch. See you next time.